The neighbor was stealing water from my reserve, so I decided to teach him a lesson that I live in Asia and just bought a new house. The previous owners were family friends who were going through financial difficulties and hadn't lived in the country for almost 3 years. Because of this, I got a great price, located right in the heart of the capital. The sale was finalized at the beginning of this month, and I moved in right after. The house needed some repairs, as the previous owners had stopped the renovation halfway, and the main door was locked with just a padlock, without even a doorknob. Furthermore, the house had no gate, which meant anyone could enter. On my first day, I found someone's bicycle parked in the garage. I decided to move it and leave it on the street, installing a gate the same day. Later, an angry man came knocking on my door. I didn't bother to answer, but I could see through the window that he gave up after 15 minutes and took the bicycle away. This made me uncomfortable with the neighborhood, but apart from this incident, there were no other problems. However, people still didn't know the house was no longer abandoned, which made my gate get blocked more often. To solve this, I put up a "No Parking" sign on the gate. Last week, while taking a shower, I noticed that the water pressure was lower than usual, and I heard my neighbor's water pump running. This neighbor, an elderly man, lived in a 3-story house, with the first floor being the only one he occupied, while the other 2 were rented out. This man was very upset about the sale of the house and expressed his concerns to the previous owners, who warned me. However, I'm 1.80 m tall with 3 dogs, so I didn't think he would do anything, and in fact, he didn't. In my area, houses need water pumps to take water to the tanks on the roof, as the water pressure from the public supply is not enough to get it to the 3 floors. That I heard my neighbor's pump running and got suspicious. While coincidences do happen, I decided to investigate. I waited until his pump stopped and then turned on various faucets in my house. The pressure returned to normal, which confirmed my suspicions. The water bills, which had been high due to some leaks in the house, now seemed to make sense, as the neighbor was diverting water from my property. At some point in the last 3 years, this neighbor must have decided to save on water costs by stealing from my pipes. While I couldn't pinpoint exactly where he was diverting the water, the pressure evidence confirmed it. That I spent a few days wondering whether I should confront him, take legal action, or just let it go. I realized that while water was cheap in my country, my total bill was around $5 per month. Even with the neighbor stealing some, the issue wasn't the cost but his attitude. It wasn't right for him to use my resources without paying, without consequences. That I decided to act simply and effectively. I turned off my water from the main supply. This way, I wouldn't have to invade his property or break any laws, but I would still get my revenge. On Monday, I waited until his pump started running and then cut off the water supply. In my country, the tanks have a float valve that controls the water level and triggers the pump when needed. If the level doesn't rise, the valve stays open, sending a signal to keep the pump running until the level reaches a point where the valve closes and turns off the pump. My expectation was that his pump would burn out from running without water, causing problems for him and his tenants. However, what I didn't foresee was that the pump would continue running, consuming power during the night and damaging the fuses in the old wiring of the house, which caused an overload. The house still had 1990s era wiring, which made the situation worse. Around 3 a.m., I heard the house's residents waking up and whispering about why only their house in the neighborhood didn't have power or water. I figured out the power issue because the tenants started shouting at the landlord. Tenant protection laws are very strict in my country. Power and water are considered essential services, and cutting them without a valid reason is illegal. In this case, the landlord was held responsible for the lack of maintenance in the wiring and water supply, resulting in complaints from the tenants and a $500 fine. This was a big blow financially for him, as he lost both tenants and had to refund the security deposits. With no money left, the landlord was forced to move to his daughter's house. He found out the reason for the problem and came to my gate to ask if I had turned off my water. I just said that my tank had a leak and that I had turned it off until the plumber came to fix it. His face was priceless. He tried to stay composed, but I could tell he was holding back. He just replied, "Oh, okay, and went back inside that I planned to call a plumber next week to fix my pipes and eliminate any possibility of the neighbor stealing water again. This way, I solved the problem of the water and got rid of a troublesome neighbor, all by simply turning off a faucet. TLDR, I bought an abandoned house, and the neighbor was stealing water from my supply. I turned off my water, which caused his pump to burn out and damage the wiring in his house. The tenants filed complaints with the police, and the landlord was fined, lost his tenants, and was forced to move to his daughter's house.